Buddy, welcome on. Welcome everyone. Ah, it's great to see some faces again. Feel free to put your videos on if you've got the bandwidth. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good
Morning.
morning, Mr. Risk Reduction.
Morning, Thomas.
AKA Martin. That's great. I think it's funny. Sometimes you see the different names and they've got like all sorts of acronyms and stuff in it, and but not their name. It's funny how we have to shift those over for different situations. All right. Great to see everyone here. Well, I'm just going to give it one more minute while we gather everybody in. Boy, we got a nice crowd of great looking people. Okay, so I'll just say, it's wonderful to be at this point in November. We're fastly approaching Thanksgiving, and I hope everybody's got some plans to be able to hang out with some family members or friends or close social members of your community, and it's really great. I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but I I've always found that this is really the kind of cutest time of the year. Autumn. All right, so yeah, some of these work better than others, folks. I appreciate those of you who are laughing. I understand those who are not. Um, and we'll try to proceed here. So, hey, really appreciate everyone being here for the Arizona Faith Gathering. This is a continually growing group. It's critically important. As we discussed at the very last time that we met, we had a great presentation. Really talking about the critical role of spirituality in post-traumatic stress and disorder. And how faith healing or faith organizations can help heal the wounds of war, the moral injury, and those types of things. Kind of some different ways of looking at post-traumatic growth as opposed to being stuck in the disorder, if you will, or the symptoms of the disorder. And so if for those of you who didn't catch that particular one, we've got the recording of that and would definitely encourage you to take a look at that again. That was a great conversation. And we're not going to change from that. Today, we're going to hear from a lot of different great folks, but we've also got Dr. Sang-Hoon Woo, who is just a great friend and ally in supporting service members, veterans, and their families. And he's going to talk about trauma-informed faith communities and how critical that is to be able to understand, some of the real basics. The most valuable tool for me out of when we first kind of started looking into trauma-informed care is the concept that you need to start shifting, and I'm talking about myself as well. We need to start shifting our thoughts from what is wrong with you to what happened in your history that is leading to the behaviors that you now have. That's my little spin on it, but he's going to talk about that and help us to develop what I think that what that reinforces, which is empathy. And empathy is, wonderfully spiritual concept. We all need love, we all need care, we all need support, and that touches our very soul. So happy to have Dr. Wu here with us today, and Mike is you're going to be hearing from Mike Wold and from Heidi Lindsay and a bunch of others about some great stuff that's happening. Before we do all that, I would like to introduce just an amazing person. Tanya Hamilton is the director of the CEO of the Governor's Office of Youth, Faith, and Families, and she has been a consistent ally. She is of all service members, veterans, and their families across the state. And so I want to turn it over to Tanya to say a few words.
Thank you, Thomas. Very much appreciate being here this morning and returning from the webinar that we had a couple of months ago, which was excellent. So on behalf of myself, Governor Hobbs, yes, I am Cabinet Executive Officer / Director. We have these name changes happening. It's another conversation. Anyways, I'm serving here in the Governor's Office of Youth, Faith, and Family. I've been in this capacity since January. Governor Hobbs appointed me, but I've been in this office for 16 years, serving 4 governors, native of the state, and I've worked in different state systems for 29 years. Needless to say, the state of Arizona, being an Air Force brat, veterans are near and dear to my heart. But as we're looking at the faith-based organizations and really learning and building and collaborating more so with those particular constituents across the state, we too have the emphasis over these past few years of including trauma-informed care, treatment, modalities, information, and all of our requests for grant applications that go out to the public. We have been very intentional in making sure that our staff and other staff around in different nonprofits, faith-based organizations, what have you, understand adverse childhood experiences, understand trauma-informed, to really, take that time, as Thomas mentioned, to focus on empathy. Not as an excuse of this is why your behavior is such, but understanding and having a more empathetic understanding of people's situation. So yes, I'm very much part of Arizona Coalition of Military Families, supporting anything and all things that they do, because they do excellent work, not just for our service veterans, spouses, and dependents, but just the ripple effect of the impact on constituents across the state. So I'm very pleased to be here and able to speak to everyone, ready to learn, listen. Pastor Sang-Hoon, Pastor Barnwell, Mike, I see a lot of wonderful faces and people that we enjoy working with. Thomas, D, thank you guys for the invitation, and have a good rest of your morning. Let's go.
All right. Well said. Thanks, Tanya. Appreciate it. Okay. So next slide. Okay. Now I'm going to introduce Heidi Lindsay. She is the symposium program coordinator. That's coming up, I think, in April sometime, maybe like the 17th and 18th. You should probably be there because it's awesome. There's great food. It's wonderful. And there's all sorts of good stuff that goes on. It's just absolutely essential. We'd love to see everyone there. And she is also our Faith Network project specialist, and helps to support Mike Wold and really the whole team in the state in being able to help bring these events to you. So appreciate it. Heidi, take us away.
Thank you, Mike. That's quite the mouthful. I appreciate it. Will you go to the next slide, please, Amanda? So good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today for this faith gathering that we've been planning with Dr. Sang-Hoon Yu, and really working on, creating a space of belonging for trauma veterans and trauma community. Dr. Yu has been working with Maricopa County to partner together to create these spaces in faith communities. So we will hear from him today. We'll hear a testimonial from Pastor Aubrey Barnwell about his work in faith communities. And then we'll have a breakout discussion for a little bit with a few questions so that we can really dive deep into this topic and figure out how we can bring this to our communities and what may be holding us back and how to overcome those barriers. And then, of course, we'll have time for questions and answers at the end. Next slide. And I want to bring you some updates that have been happening in the Be Connected Faith Network that everyone has been working hard to affect the lives of veterans in faith communities. First, our Be Connected updates within our crew here. If you have any events that are coming up that you would like advertised, I can put them in our quarterly newsletter. So please email them to me at Heidi@ArizonaCoalition.org by December 1st so that I can add those in. And then our next faith gathering will be February 21st of 2024. We have them quarterly each year, so February. And then the next one that would be the next quarter actually takes place at the symposium. That takes the place of the faith gathering. So like Thomas said, it's kind of a big deal. We would love to see you there. Our partner activities for the Be Connected Faith Network partners, our Lady of Joy Veteran Recognition Lunch happened this past Saturday on November 11th on Veterans Day. Casa de Cristo Lutheran Church holds a veterans breakfast every second Saturday of the month at 8 a.m. if you're interested in spreading that around for our veterans to attend. And then Mike Wald annually attends the annual Carefree Veterans Day event, which he went to this Saturday. Just at Carefree. Next slide. All right, and I would like to pass it off to our co-chair, Mike Wald. He co-chairs with Thomas Winkle for the Be Connected Faith Network.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. First of all, I just want to say that looking forward to introducing my good friend, Dr. Sangoon Yu, and as Thomas said, Reverend Yu has been a great partner for many years. I'll be introducing him, and then Sangoon will be introducing Pastor Barnwell, and we're anxious to hear from him. The presentation that is going to be given by Sangoon ties very well in with our mission, which is to equip faith communities with the information and the training they need to serve the veterans in their faith communities and, of course, serve their families. So Reverend Dr. Sangoon Yu, founder of for the Faithful City, he has led ministries and social services at Arizona State University in Phoenix metropolitan area for over 2 decades. He holds a master's degree in social work and a doctor of ministry degree. He's founded the Arizona Trauma Informed Community, and now called the Coalition, Arizona Trauma Informed Coalition. He collaborates with the Arizona Adverse Childhood Experiences Consortium. Adverse Child Experiences is a score, basically, of 10 trauma incidents that might occur to youth, and there's a bunch of research, et cetera, around that. He is a certified spiritual director, Adverse Child Experiences score, I talked about that, trainer. He trains in trauma-informed care, mindfulness, leadership, social emotional learning, historical trauma, and many other pieces of training. He's organized an annual statewide conference since 2019, called Building Resilient Church Conference, and that's hosted at Pure Heart Church over in the West Phoenix area, West Valley, collaborating with over 50 local and national speakers. With the Arizona Trauma Informed Faith community, he has mobilized a trauma-informed community movement, providing regional monthly meetings and developing collaboration with various professional fields. That's where Thomas and I are the veteran representatives. He offers training in the ACEs and trauma-informed care training, organizational cultural change. He consults with faith communities, school districts, public health and mental health organizations, and foster care system. He contributed to the authorship of the training modules for opioid and substance use prevention, and statewide standardization of the ACEs training modules. Recently, he was awarded a grant by Maricopa County Public Health Department to train faith communities in the trauma-informed lens-based substance abuse prevention program. He also coaches executive leadership of health and mental health organizations for trauma-informed community building journey. In addition, he is co-managing the faith-based community PACES. It's a national hub of trauma-informed care with the staff and sharing the faith sector of the community of practice at National Coalition. He also is involved with the campaign for trauma-informed care policy and practices. So he's a busy, busy man. I'm so happy that he is able to be with us today. So Dr. Sangoon, it's all yours.
Okay, hello everyone. I just put the chat my information. So my friend Mike Wald gonna be my timekeeper. So we go as much as we go, and nowadays we have a lot of more in-person meeting, which I'm more used to, and Zoom meeting is also challenging. So if you have any questions, I don't know the culture here, but you can unmute yourself or chat, and Mike Ward gonna always interrupt me, no problem, to really have a good discussion. The reason I'm saying this is that I have 30 minutes, but I have 8 gigabytes. I can work, I have more than 8 hours of materials with you. So we have very short time. So I don't know how much I can really convey and even the essence of what we are doing. But also I want to let you have and take away what you need to. So don't hesitate ask questions. And also I'm sure that you will enjoy the breakout session. That'll be really great. Today I'm gonna talking about the community belonging. Actually, I've been talking and training and doing training here many years. And I thought about it. Actually, I'm sorry, Heidi and Amanda, that I gave you my PowerPoint slides very last minute, because I've been thinking what might be the really good one for 25-30 minutes. Because whenever we talk about the trauma-informed care, a lot of people have some resistance against talking about science only. I don't do that, but still kind of people have an impression that, oh, it's all about science, I don't want to talk about it. But also when we talk about the faith, we don't want to preach on certain things. And also I can only represent the Christian faith. And we have various faith communities here in Arizona, as well as all around the world, of course. And I'm so happy that and Thomas talking about that. Wow, that's the awareness really grown up. So now we are talking about post-traumatic growth, which is kind of a last stage that after we're talking about ACEs and neuroscience and resilience and hope, and then going through that post-traumatic growth. So I think the awareness-wise, we really grown up well. So I'm very, very happy that where we are. At the same time, the challenge always, still there are people, oh, what is ACEs, right? Well, I'm not talking about hardware store. It's a very childhood experiences, but there are certain things that we can communicate. So I'm here to support you wherever you are and whenever. So here's my information to contact me or Mike and Thomas, and we can collaborate together. Okay, so next slide is going to show that my background. I was in social work field, but I founded the Facebook City as campus administrator at Arizona State University, and did a lot of work with the community and together. However, next slide is going to show kind of interesting graph that next slide is going to show a very interesting graphic that I was in my own traumatic season. So I did a lot of work for the social work and crisis and trauma, and for the ministry, of course, the church I'm pastoring, and also a lot of community movement, community service, multi-ethnic leadership development. But out of all this, actually, we call this a vicarious trauma or secondary trauma that affected me, and also I've been through my own traumatic season. So I just really gave almost everything. I became more suicidal. At the point, I met the trauma-informed care movement, actually in DC when I went there. And I came back and joined the Arizona ACES consortium. So next slide shows that how much it grew up. Can we go to the next slide? The Arizona Trauma Informed Faith Coalition, it grew up exponentially, covering the state. And actually, we are now working as a local or national network together. I especially want to emphasize that people don't want to talk about the trauma, but when we open the door of a trauma, if we can talk about it safely, actually it connects everybody. Well, I saying this because this is the really essence of today. Well, how can we build a community belonging? As long as I feel like you may not understand what I'm saying, or whatever you say, I'm not going to understand you. If we carry that mindset, then we cannot really build up or create the community belonging, right? So interestingly, when we find the common ground with something like a trauma, shame and guilt kind of connected. But if we can have a safe kind of environment or space or relationship, then actually you can see everybody going to be connected and also deeply connected. And that's really important because nowadays everything's shallow and people talking about isolation and talking about the problem of the social media and everything, right? But the main problem is, although we try to connect, it always stays shallow level. However, in spite of that, if we can really try to be vulnerable, right, then we can be honest and transparent. Then it can open the door that a lot of possibilities. We can make a friends, although we never experience the same experience in our life, and also we can really enjoy the difference, but also we can really have a amazing conversation and build a safe relationship that can be really the foundation for collaboration. So those things are kind of an important thing that I want to emphasize in today. So with that, the next slide shows that our collaboration with the Arizona Trauma Informed Faith Coalition and Be Connected and our coalition here for military families. And you can see D there, but we did a co-training with the Be Connected and Trauma Informed Care together. And then we are planning that maybe next year, early next year. So the basics of trauma informed care, about the science and all the kind of a skill set and tools, then we're gonna more talk about it next time in early next year. And next slide shows again that importance of the collaboration and like that. And with that, as I was introduced, next slide shows that the project title of the grant award from the Maricopa County Department of Public Health, which is Creating Community of Belonging. Well, this is a substance prevention grant. However, as you know that 95% of substance use coming out of trauma, people didn't decide, I want to really go for my life, so I just love to destroy my life with a substance. But because something happened, as Thomas said, it's not about what's wrong with you, it's about what happened to you. Because a lot of trauma really induced the substance use. But substance use is one of the coping behavior. Heidi and I talked a lot about the suicide prevention because we were talking in September, but because of trauma, there can be a lot of responses. We know fight, flight, freeze behavior, and also substance use or suicidal ideation and suicidal behavior. And also there are so many other things that even very socially corporate kind of a behavior, desirable behavior. Somebody is just quiet, don't say anything, don't do anything, just to study, just to work. But all these things are actually coping behavior because of what happened. And our really perspective is very trauma-informed lens-based. And that's why I really appreciate also our governor's office, because they have been constantly focusing on the trauma-informed based lens, because that's a kind of a foundation, because we want to see the root cause instead of trying to touch on the shallow. So with that, next slide shows that how the movement has been developed. So with all the Arizona Trauma-Informed Faith Coalition, all the allies, and then with the department, I developed the faith network leadership network. And then with this project, we also developed a strategic partnership consultant team. So we have a broad sense of the leadership through all the faith communities and some other experts and also other sectors to work together. So the curriculum itself of the belonging training is 6 hours, and next slide shows that we're talking about a trauma-informed care lens and substance use, and how we build a community belonging, and how to do the practice and planning. Actually, I'm also completing the online training, but the more important thing is training is not enough. We need to continually follow up. So I just want to emphasize here, because training is very limited. But when we talk about the trauma, well, I don't want to discourage you, but let's be honest, trauma cannot go away easily. So we have to be resilient. And one more thing I can tell you, I contrast between resilience and success, because we are all about success, victory, right? However, success, victory is very goal-oriented. But resilience is actually not goal-oriented. Instead of recharging myself every day, whatever I face tomorrow. So this is a very different paradigm. And we need to build up resilience, because we don't know how my trauma memory can pop up. And then I'm gonna just feel very weird, and I'm gonna do some weird behaviors, and people are gonna don't like me, and all things can happen. And I don't know how many people can say really I perfectly cleared from the trauma. But it's good if it works that way. But a lot of times people are suffering because of that. They think, what's wrong with me, and why does it happen constantly? Well, although we have an amazing developed brain science, I don't think we really figured out everything. But however, what we know is that actually unconditional love and one person with a constant care is a key. The safe relationship is key to really redeem and recover from trauma. I'm not the only one saying this. Not as a pastor, scientist, therapist, medical doctors, and all other experts saying this, which means, wow, well, we have a hope, because you don't need a counseling degree. You don't need certain training, but you need a lifestyle of how I can build a very safe relationship, which anybody can do if we have a will and heart and passion for that. And that's why also it can give us hope that the faith community, I don't have any type of the other degree, so I cannot do this. No, anybody can do this if we have that experience, and then we actually continue to cultivate that in our space. That's what we try to do in the belonging community. Okay. So next slide shows that how it developed, and it developed well so far. We have about 7-8 months of progress, and we're gonna continue next year. And we train the training of trainers, and we do the follow-up. And then for those who follow up, so we trained about 34 organizations, and out of that, 11 organizations and faith communities or faith-based communities really kind of do the follow-up. So they were really awarded in our conference, the first Weave and Cleave conference in May by Maricopa County Public Health and Faithful City. They are recognized as a community of belonging. Heidi, can you play the video? for Amanda. They're working.
We're here to deal with creating communities of belonging in a very disconnected society.
There's been just a lot of economic fallout, substance use disorder, eviction crisis, folks experiencing homelessness.
Was trauma around my family? Yeah. But are we breaking this generation curse? Yeah. And the hardest part, I realize that it has to start with me.
God is more than able to use the good, the bad, and the ugly of your life to make a massive difference in this hurting world.
You will meet people in some of the most vulnerable places when you're doing trauma-informed work. And it is a blessing to meet them there. And it's hard, and it requires relationship, and it requires time, and it requires us to break down stereotypes that dehumanize one another. Through this, my self-regulation, my self-healing, my relationship with our lead pastor, just walking that path, then walking someone else through it, right? I saw the amazing power of the faith community and how the faith community can really come together and address community issues.
Through conversation, we realize we're really not that different, and we all do need to work together for a common good and a common goal.
We need each other. We belong to one another. We need to encourage each other and build each other up.
There's resources and trainings here, but there's so much that everyone can learn from each other.
We see a lot of connection, not as a business interest, but actually genuine support. I'm doing this, and I find friend and colleague, we can work together.
I really love the diversity of religions that we are, and to appreciate that diversity has the treasure of our society, because together we can make better everything.
We can be catching everything as it's coming downstream, but if we don't go and plug the whole upstream for what is happening to harm our communities, it's going to keep happening, and eventually that flow is going to overwhelm us.
We are in a state where we need to be able to pause, reflect, and build better systems that promote better outcomes.
Now, the task is monumental, but at least this is the beginning.
Training is done, conference is done, you got a certificate. But no, this is not the end. This is only beginning.
Okay, thank you. I'm showing you guys this because I want you to more encouraged, because a lot of times we have a lot of great resources and knowledge, but you feel like oh, who is doing it? And also I don't want to do by myself. But I'm just telling you that we have a lot of allies and participants and collaborators and to work together. Okay. All right. So with that, can go next slides. That was about the conference. Next slides. Yeah, that's conference. Yeah, thank you. Next slides. Let's go. Okay. So Michelle Stifler and I do the podcast, and the information I just chat. And then Michelle, actually, she's a writer, so she write an article about community belonging project in the Common Good magazine. So you can check that out as I'm put in the chat. So next slide. So I'm gonna just talk about a simple kind of things that I can share within about 10 minutes from now on. Trauma-informed care lens. Well, most important thing is, next slide shows that 3E of SAMHSA. You know about SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, is a federal agency, is an event, experience, and effect. So when we talk about the trauma, we usually just talking about the event, right? Yeah, well, when we ask what happened to you, I always teach you that it's not really about the story. It's about the safety. Because when I say what happened to you, that means I give you a safe space. You don't have to tell your story. Another thing is when people talk about their story, actually they can be re-traumatized. So yeah, we just teach about the what happened to you. And actually, Dr. Marte, Gera Marte, he said, it's not only what happened to you, it's really only, it's about what happened inside of you. So really, that's the part, next part. What happened and how it influenced my insight. That's my experience, right? So my interpretation of that event. And then how it affect. The effect is very different. Experience is different based on the individuals. And then effect is also different. And then we need to really appreciate that. That's how we build community belonging. Because you know, there's a the shooting out there in a school, and then the news media says, oh, 3 people died, and we just that's what we kind of focus on, what happened and how many people died. But actually, if you were there, if you in that school, if we are part of the 20,000 students are there, each one has experienced differently. And even it's a real story that in the college campus, there was the freshman 10 students who experienced the mass shooting in there was a high school. So the effect going to be doubled up, right? And it can be more prolonged. And trauma-informed care is not really about the event, it's really about the effect. So the event causes experience of interpretation, it causes an effect. Either physiologically, emotionally, spiritually, right? All these things. And how we're gonna really deal with it. That's actually about the trauma-informed care. The next slide emphasize, however, the effect and experience, especially effect as the reactive behaviors, fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn. There are so many words now that people are bringing in that. And also substance use or suicide ideation and suicidal behaviors, or antisocial or isolation. These are physiologically corrective behaviors. So instead of trying to making it as a problem behavior, these are the coping behavior. That's very important. There's a change of the paradigm, change of the perspective. But it's hard because if it is annoying, illegal, immoral, that's why we did this kind of a mindfulness training here, right? Mindful training that I'm not gonna just immediately respond to trauma response from somebody or even from myself instead of what's wrong with me or what's wrong with you. We're gonna say, okay, let's just come here. What happened, and then it's okay not to be okay. You can stay here as you are, and I accept. We are here as you are, we accept. I always say acceptance is not approval. So although we don't approve each other's behavior, we can still coexist and accept each other. So with that, next slides are about substance use recovery, but I'm not going to talk about substance use. However, another next slide shows the vicious cycle of that maladaptive or abnormal behavior, which is normal behavior to abnormal situations. So remember this, all our trauma response is normal behavior to abnormal instances in abnormal situations, right? So that's why we are surrounded by all the fear and anxiety because you know, we know all the cycle of addiction, but anyhow somehow we got into the substance use or abnormal behavior again, then people are gonna judge me, and then it kind of makes me kind of more guilty, shame, right? So next slide shows I borrow some kind of the animation from our scripture, my scripture of a Christian faith, but the trauma is not only when we talk about the PTSD or you know. It's really not only about the behavior, it's really about what's going on inside of my bottom of my heart, like a moral injury. It hits what? My guilt, shame, brokenness, right? And blame, and being unloved, unaccepted, rejected. And I'm not gonna be perfect. Sometimes I say that we all have, as an Americans, we have a disease name called perfectionism. You know, all these things really kind of inside of us kind of broken and ashamed, and we carry that. That's the main thing that of the trauma that we really, because that brings us trauma memory, trauma brain, trauma response. So Johannes Hari said that, next slide shows that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but it is a human connection. Well, again, it's not only about the substance use. Really, the human connection is the key for all of us. And so next slide, let's go another one, next one. So how much is important connection and before correction? And I confess it all the time that with my own traumatic season, actually my training as becoming a legalistic pastor helped me to do that, which means I try to reach out people, love people by correction. Because I have a word of God, I know what is right and what is, actually, what I found from my Lord Christ is that he came down here to connect us first, before the correct. So next slide, I always use that one as that, when he came and then was with the woman at the adultery, what he did was that he made her safe because she was almost stoned, but she was redeemed, that by Jesus. It's hilarious, to be honest, provocative, and she is a sinner, very obvious sinner. But whatever she did was safely protected, safety first, physical safety, and then he said, "I don't condemn you," which means you belong to me. You are not rejected here. Emotional safety, and then reasons. Sin no more. So Dr. Bruce Perry talking about the 3R model, regulate, relate, reason. In our trauma activated responses and brain, our system, people need to be regulated with safety. And then people need to be related to be loved rather than to be rejected, abandoned. And then people can think better. So we can talk about it, what happened, right? So that's what I learned from Jesus, which is so much clearly supported by the current science. So in our model, we really bringing together to build a belonging community. We need to have this, that we need to make sure that we are safe. And then whatever happened is actually reflection of the what happened. And so we have an attitude that that it's okay not to be okay, but you are protected safely here, and I don't reject you, and then we love you, and then when there is the stability and calming down and regulation, and then we can go ahead. However, important, it's not going to happen immediately like this. It takes a long time. That's why we need a community and cultural change. So it's very, very important. I just planting seeds here. And although you heard maybe 1,000 times, if you saw me 1,000 times, but still the problem is, do we do this every day? I've been surviving my trauma 10 years, and then from suicidal attempt. I heard from veteran just yesterday. She has an autistic child, and then actually she is a pastor Aubrey Bonnell's congregant. She is a veteran, and she has an autistic child, and she was very suicidal one day, but that night she took all the pills, and she's still waiting for dying. But her autistic child came to her suddenly in the middle of the night. He never did that before, but that day, that night, he did, "Mama, I love you," and kissed her, and that changed her mind. And so she just called her sister and called 911, and then what happened to me. I sort of all the pills, so she got treated well, so she survived. And then she just credit this to God and the person who always accept her, who always pray for her. That's her grandma. And that's the kind of how it works, that this unconditional love and acceptance and praying and using the high power is really a key for our trauma-informed care-based belonging, establishing belonging community. So next slide, and my last slide is going to show that what is the perceived threats to my safety. So just take it to your mind and then think about what is a threat to my safety culturally, emotionally, personally, in my relationship, spiritually, or my mind and thinking, or physical body, and how I responded, how I treat it, and how about others. And we can share it, and then we can really go from there. That's a very beginning part of how we're gonna build a community of belonging. Heidi, can you go to the Pastor Aubrey's the picture? Yes. So I introduced Pastor Aubrey Manuel. So he's I call him as my superstar pastor, and he's representing South Phoenix area of our movement and leading that the First New Life Church. And he has been a modeling pastor of trauma-informed care, and his church has been also a modeling church to build a community belonging. So because of time, I can talk about him whole day, but I'm gonna just let him go. So Pastor Aubrey Manuel, stage is yours.
Thank you, Pastor Yu. I'm so grateful and honored to be with you all today. Be connected, and I have my own story connected, and I can give you just a little background. I was born in Grand Forks, North Dakota, to a Air Force sergeant. He was there. He met my mother in Winnipeg, and so we started our life out in North Dakota. And my dad was on the worked with the fire department. He was air rescue, and so he would be gone for a number of days. So it would just be me and my mom at the house, and living on base. Her family was on the East Coast, except for a few family members in Winnipeg. And so growing up, I was sort of isolated because I was the only child for 3 years. And my mother was a newlywed. She was 19 when she had me. And so she didn't have a lot of connections as well. And so looking at this from a belonging perspective or from a trauma perspective, I went back and looked at my life and walked through this and realized that there were some behaviors that existed as a way of surviving and a way of trying to address the challenges that I experienced. At that point in time, one of the things that my mother told me was, as a child, the kids would come over from other military families, would come to the house, and they would then leave. And I would basically tell them that if you don't leave, I'll let you have my toys. And that developed within me a need of codependency. So I was codependent. That need to have others and to have connection with others, specifically children. And so that was difficult. We then moved from there. My father went to Vietnam. And when he went to Vietnam, we moved to Nova Scotia and lived with my grandparents. And that was a house full of people, with my mother being one of eight children. So me and my sister were in the house, and then she had another baby, and I got lost in the house, and got challenged as well. We lived there for while we were there. My father had been shot in Vietnam, and I remember that experience. Walking into my grandmother's kitchen, and my mother and my grandmother were sitting there crying, and I didn't know what they were crying about, but I learned that that my father had been shot. I didn't really know who he was because of the distance that we had in those first few years. And so it wasn't until we moved here to Arizona in about 1965 that we reconnected. That experience was another traumatic because we went from the Northeast to Phoenix, Arizona, which was a culture shock for my mother and a culture shock for me. We tried to blend in as much as we could. Had not been in a African American Southern community ever, and so it was difficult. It was here that we landed, and interestingly enough, my father was stationed at Luke Air Force Base, and Tanya Hamilton's father, they were both stationed there together. So we've known each other for many years. At that time, we were living in South Phoenix, but my father then got stationed in California. So we moved to California, Anaheim. That was another culture shock. And so I've walked through these many challenges of being put into different communities at different times and not realizing what that was doing to me. And what those challenges were in trying to assimilate myself into these different communities. We didn't have one church that we went to in California. We went to different churches, and we went to churches that were predominantly African American. We went to churches that were Caucasian, if you will, and we were just all over. And so I found myself always feeling like the stranger. Classrooms, because of the distance between my siblings and I would be the first one to attend junior high, and I'd be there by myself. And so I feel like being by myself. So when Pastor Yu introduced, first of all, trauma-informed care, I began to look at myself and realized and have a passion and a concern for those who have that same kind of experience. And I think many military families experience that. I also then had to look at my father's experiences, and I didn't always understand it. I came to understand that, especially later in his life, he passed in 2017, and he was pastoring. In fact, I took over from him in the pastorship. But he had experienced PTSD, and I did not know it. No one diagnosed it. No one had identified it until very late in life. It was interesting because many individuals who knew him prior to going to Vietnam and coming back said there was something different about it. There was something different. And we have a number of members who were in the military and who had either retired or had come out. And I didn't realize that the military training in and of itself caused trauma. And part of it was they were disconnected from what it meant to have relationship with other people, to have relationship with their family. They were desensitized in some way. And so when they came back, now you're thrust into this family where now you've been desensitized from recognizing other people's emotions and feels. And now you're being put into the family and saying, now reconnect with your family. And those dynamics were totally different. And I've counseled with a number of families whose spouses had been in the military, came back and had to tell them, we're not in the Army, that we're not in the Air Force, we're not in the Marines, we don't know what that's like. So working through those, and so we try to create an environment where, as Pastor Yu says so often, where we determine that we look at not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. And I began to look at my dad from that perspective and was able to develop a relationship from that perspective, because it was challenging. As I went to high school and then went to college, and I got to the place where I was struggling with compulsive overeating, because it's not always substance abuse. but there are other coping skills and coping mechanisms that we use and put us in danger. And so we didn't use alcohol and we didn't use drugs, but we used food. And then I used sex as also as challenge. And so all of those things were difficult and challenging for me. And so as we think about and consider this weaving and cleaving and coming together and creating a community of belongings, one of the things that we've embraced is taking strangers and making them friends and with the hopes of being family. And so that's what we try to do. That's what we strive to do. That's the thing that has helped and guarded me and helped me to bring it up. So that is I guess the crux of what I would identify is, what does it take to really be a friend to a stranger, being open. And I think what regulate and relate, that's where friendship begins before I try to correct. So that's the crux of my story. Thank you, Pastor Yu.
Well, I want
Thank you so much, Pastor Aubrey. Okay, Mike, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I just don't want to say that that we were kind of astonished that how can be the pastor, suppose the perfect person can be vulnerable freely and actually share without any screening. That's a kind of a courage. And I want to really emphasize, with all this training, we need to have a courage as well as encouragement. That's going to be the key that for us to continue and collaborate with the movement. With that, we try to build a journey of the trauma-informed community, awareness and self-care, organizational cultural change of belonging, and community engagement. And then we can be an advocate for those who are suffering. Yeah, thank you, Mike.
It's Sangun and I have been together so long now, we kind of think I was going to mention some of the same things. I don't know how you feel, but when I hear a talk by someone who talks from the heart and it makes themselves vulnerable, talking about their own story, that I remember it for a long time. And I wanted to thank Dr. Yu and also Pastor Barnwell for sharing that. And thank you, Pastor Barnwell, for sharing your connection with our military and with some of the issues that we are dealing with the Be Connected program. So it gave insight to everyone on this Zoom as to what it's all about. So I want to thank you both. What I'd like to do now is we'll break into some breakout groups, and we'll have some questions related to what Dr. Yu and Pastor Barnwell actually talked about. We have a facilitator for each of the breakouts, and we'll spend 25 minutes. We'll be introducing everybody, get a chance to introduce themselves, and then we'll get into discussing these questions. So it's going to be very interesting to hear what we hear in those discussions. So with that, I'd like to start the breakout sessions, and we'll bring you back at 25 minutes after 11 for kind of a quick wrap up.
Hey, Heidi and Amanda. So us three should be out, and then you guys can choose which room to go to. It's not since you guys are co-hosts, it's not assigning you.
Oh,
But you
okay.
guys should be able to go. Yeah.
So I'm supposed to facilitate one of them, and so is Amanda, right?
Okay, I'll go
Yes.
with 3 because it looks like there's no facilitator in there.
Okay.
So 3, and then Heidi.
Do I go to 1?
Yeah, you can go to 1.
Yep, looks like it. Okay, thanks.
And Thomas, are you staying out here or
I'm
going
gonna
into one?
stay out here. Yeah, yeah. But
Awesome.
hey, Aubrey.
Yes.
Yeah, great job. Thanks for sharing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
that was fantastic. I was texting back and forth a little bit with Tanya, and just she told me a little bit about your family history and all, not your, but together, your co-family history. That's wild. I love hearing that stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Good. I appreciate the opportunity. I think I was supposed to connect with you a while back, but
Yeah, and that all is well. Yeah, yeah, all is well. But yeah, I just wanted to make a special note to you because I really appreciate your obviously your heart that you showed, as Mike said, but it's great to have you participate with us today.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pastor Yu is gone.
I think he's in one of the breakouts.
Okay.
That's my understanding. And so, but yeah, he's off the main section here.
Okay.
We have little breakout rooms that we send folks to.
Okay. Okay. And then they do question and answers. Do you do a
Yeah, we kind of do a breakdown at the end and kind of what was discussed. We put those notes out to everybody, and then we'll be talking about some of the other things that are coming up that we'll be doing kind of a little bit of announcements, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got an invitation to join room 1. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was a great conversation, so enjoy.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. How you doing, Caesar?
Doing good, Thomas. Doing great. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Did you?
Oh.
I didn't catch the last little bit though.
No, I just asked how you're doing. I hope that you're doing. I hope that you're doing well.
Yeah. Do it. You know how it is. It's you get in the thick of things, and it's
Yes, sir.
yeah, you just get buzzing, and so it's hard to kind of how am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good that we're having these kind of conversations now. Kind of when I sit through these conversations, I'm always like, I can take some stuff out of it and apply to my own personal life as well.
Like 100%, right? Yeah. Just I think little piece that caught me is just accepting. I think there was actually a note about it in the meeting chat. That we tame.
Oh, yes.
When we name it, or tame it when you name it, I guess.
Yeah.
Is a,
Yeah. Freedom to talk about his codependency freely. When we name it safely, we tame the effect. Yeah.
Yeah. Takes away some of the judgment and some of those other things that go along with all that stuff. And I'm a therapist and I'm still learning stuff. So it's good to, we're all in the same boat, honestly. And so it's good to listen to this stuff to be able to focus.
Yeah, we're that's I guess the struggles of being a human being, right? Like regardless if you're psychologist, therapist, doctor, the president, it doesn't matter. Ultra
President,
super,
yeah.
we're gonna have these struggles, being a human. And so just learning how to take those little tidbits that you come across every day and saying, okay, yeah, I've experienced that. Didn't think about it that way, but maybe I should think about it that way now.
Yeah. Or, Yes. Okay. Now this is the 16th or 25th time I've heard that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe I should pay attention to it. Maybe I should incorporate that.
Yeah, it's like your mother, right? Told you
It
so.
is. It is. It is.
Or in my case, my wife.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Life continues to parent us, if you will, through all sorts of proxies. Um,
So true. So true.
that's actually pretty funny. Yeah.
That is so true, though. We need to make that into a t-shirt.
We do. We do. That's a really interesting concept. If you, yeah, it is dramatically true. And the proxy can come from our dog, or just driving somewhere. Reteaching us patience, or whatever the case happens to be. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's funny you mentioned patience because to me, there's no better teacher of patience than kids.
yeah,
Being a parent definitely has given me a crash course in patience for sure.
yeah. Well, and you think you're patient, and then you're like, oh God. Not really. Maybe not as patient as you think. All sorts of things. I had a friend when I was, partly when I was single, but he knows when we were married too. But he just said, he said, marriage and then adding kids to a marriage is the great magnifier of
Mm,
everything. And so
mm,
it magnifies your positives, it magnifies your negatives, it magnifies
so
all the
true.
different.
Gosh, that is so true.
It is. And I think he was about the only person that really I ever heard talk about the real struggles of parenthood. My Nicola and I, we talk about, like, we kind of every once in a while when we're in the thick of things, we're like, parenthood is magical. you know?
My wife picked up from a friend she made when we were in Sicily. She was very spiritual, very faith oriented person, and she would always say, Tanya, kids are a blessing, not a burden. And so like sometimes when our kids are going, having a bad day, we're like, blessings, not a burden.
Yeah.
Blessings, not a burden. And that's how we kind of try to bring it down and just be like,
No,
okay.
yeah, absolutely. That's a much better phrase than my more sarcastic,
Sometimes you need that though.
Good.
Right. Oh, if I could only say what I think sometimes in my head when I'm dealing with my kids, right?
Yeah. That's what sometimes the car is for, right?
There you go.
Why would you do that? Why would you?
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, for me personally, there's nothing more humbling or nothing more grounding than being a parent. And just dealing with the kids every day and what they're going through, and they're little human beings who have you know so much emotion. Especially I have girls, and so they're very
Yeah.
emotional, very like um, I guess sensitive is the word I could use.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as a man, I'm like, okay, just calm yourself down. Understand they're little. Understand they're going through stuff, and this is how they know how to communicate.
Right. Right.
It is tough though.
It's tough. It is tough.
Oh, CEO
Oh,
Dana Allman just joined
yeah.
us. Would you like me to bring her here or
Yeah,
to
bring
bring her?
her in. Yeah. Hey, Dana.
Let me bring her in right now. Oh, yep, there she is. Cool.
How's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good.
First I was on the phone, Then
Oh,
I was on another laptop. Then they got Zoom squared away on this one. Then there was like a webinar for something else. So I was like, well, I was on there for 10 minutes. Let me go back and I can use it on my laptop and see what's going on.
awesome. That's awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I'm loving it. How about you?
Yeah, we're in the I'm was just talking to Caesar, and we're in the thick of things, and so stuff that we weren't able to take care of while we were in kind of high season for Veterans Day and all the massive lead up to that and all the things that are
Right.
going on. Now we're trying to catch up with a variety of different things, and there's some challenges, but nothing we can't,
Okay.
so
I hear you. Yeah, I've never been obviously a part of a faith gathering. So this
yeah,
is new
yeah.
for me.
Well, I'd love to have, if you're interested, I'd love to have you like part of the kind of opening lineup if that's of interest. Um, were you able to kind of see what we talked about, or are you just popping on?
Well, I missed some of the slides, and then I had to go to my personal
Okay.
laptop. Then I had to get my IT people to get it on the thing. And then anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, if you're interested, I'd love to have you, you and Tanya, and, sometimes we have others from the VA and whatnot, kind of say some opening remarks and whatnot. But that, yeah, this is one of the very first things that we did, kind of just by way of history, back in 2009. Is we immediately started looking, because we had really strong connections with the chaplain corps and things like that, and they were saying we don't have enough. So one of the very first resources that we started looking at were some of the faith-based resources, and so we went over to a place called the Franciscan Renewal Center, or the CASA. It kind of goes by two different names, and it's kind of centrally located. They've got a whole just beautiful grounds. It's a retreat center, all sorts of good stuff happens there. And so between then and now, we just have kind of, tried to kind of keep things going, keep the conversation happening, make sure that faith-based communities are really engaged. There's a whole probably around 2015, 16, I did a whole big thing at the symposium, kind of like establishing moral injury as a concept that we have to pay attention to, because that's more on the spiritual side of things. It disconnects us from our higher power, and or feeling a sense of something bigger than ourselves, and so it can play an absolutely critical role in people's growth and movement through post-traumatic stress and all the other things that go on. And so this is kind of the iteration of that. We've been doing this for probably about 2 years. We've been working various other efforts kind of in the general field of working with faith-based organizations, really the whole time. But this is, kind of where we've gone, just kind of education, getting people together to discuss things, bringing in new concepts that maybe regular faith organizations haven't heard of, and that type of stuff. So, and I think Caesar, we do it kind of quarterly, right? Is that?
Yes, sir. Yes. It's a quarterly. The next one will be February.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And then there's a whole faith-based track at the symposium. And so that'll be, I think we've got some really interesting subjects this year. And so yeah. And actually, one last thing. Sorry, last year it was really interesting. We had a debate. I loved this. We had a debate between really just a top-notch psychologist, Adam McCrae, who was over at one of the vet centers, and he was a pastor, but had lots of experience and whatnot. and they debated to each other the relevance of like psychology versus, you know, having a spiritual connection. It was, and obviously they both totally agreed with, you know, the combat, you know, the combination of those things and making sure
Right.
we're being taken care of. But we just did it as an exercise because there are people who are like, it's only psychology. There's nothing else. There's no, you know, that type, you know, there's none of this other stuff kind of enters into it. And then on the flip side, there's, you know, psychology is bad and it's trying to take away from religion and, you know, that type of stuff. So we did it as an exercise just to explore it. And man, it was, oh my God, they're both brilliant people and they just did an amazing job. So we try to do fun stuff like that as well.
Okay, yeah, because I'm looking at, obviously, I've got a whole bunch of psychology background and using it
Right.
in
Right.
real time in the field, so to speak, not in a clinical setting, but you know, out here.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, some people that is faith is a big deal in their life.
Yep.
So you're trying to connect with someone. You need to understand what is important to them, and they don't want to sacrifice that. So, you know, may not be on the same page with what you know, excites me and gets me connected, but that is part of when you're, you know, engaging and, you know, doing any counseling, you have to know what is important to them. You can't do it if you don't get it. Because they're sharing, you want them to open up and share. That could be a barrier. You know, whatever you're bringing in the room, the elephant in the room, they taught us, you know, you need to be mindful of what's going on when you're counseling people.
That's spot on. You got it. And then
Yeah.
on the flip side, it's with faith-based organizations, what they can do is they'll say, you know, well, just don't worry about it. God will heal you. You know, God will heal. And maybe that's true, but
Mhm.
you know, it's not a biblical adage, but you know, God who helps those who help themselves, you know, type of thing. You have to, it's usually a combination of both of those things. But if a veteran is going into a faith-based organization to preach or to, you know, practice their religion, whether they be Jewish or Muslim or whatever,
Mhm.
and they're not aware of trauma and its impact and military culture and those types of things, it can be a very unpleasant experience for them.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's hard enough in a regular setting. And then going, you know, they're like, you guys are, you know, you've heard different things of we're intense, we're whatever, and it's only your way or the highway. I'm like, not exactly, but if we get to that point, it could be, that might be what could happen if stuff's not moving fast enough. I don't know. But no, I don't know. Everybody's different of where they were, their experiences in the military. I can't be directive all the time. It kind of doesn't work at certain levels.
Right.
All right, Alman, I know, but can we like contribute something? I don't know. We might have be an expert. I don't know. But yeah, you know, when you have that debate, science or religion, I'm like, why can't it be both? I mean, I don't know of anything. What is the science? How is it? It works this way. I don't know. And I'm sure there's probably different types of healing. Maybe the body physically, I can't get your knee to heal the way it should, but there's other types of, I'm sure, healing that's out there that may not be physical. I can't see it.
Right. Right. Well, and there's just so much, you know, even if, you know, there is nothing bigger than us, right? Just the simple acts of prayer and meditation and, you know, quiet reflection and feeling as if you're cared for and loved.
Yeah.
They're all healing things, you know? And so it's a silly debate in so many ways. But, you know, but it happens and people use different, you know, biases either not engage with one or the other, and it's all very silly. So we should be promoting all possible good pathways. So,
Right. Right. As long as you're going to use your faith for good, your powers for good,
yes,
I'm down with let's do it.
yes, exactly. For love and caring and empathy and exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm sure most of the time that's what it is. But we watch too much TV and all that good stuff.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's that. Most everybody's kind of in groups if you wanted to join and listen in. Not, just as that's an option.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to listen. Obviously, as soon as they get in the room, they're like, hey, what do you think, Almond? And I just observe,
Yeah.
no, we're getting you into the combo.
I just come in. I'm just listening.
Right, because this is a new experience, so it'll be interesting. I don't know what people talk about in regards to faith.
Yeah. All right. Which group looks good, Caesar?
2, we do have about 3 minutes. I just want to give you that
that's fine
information. So okay. I can move you over to room 2. They only have 8 people there, so
okay.
And that's where D's at. So that'll be a good one.
Okay.
Oh,
that'll work.
In a bit.
See ya. Okay. Bye.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, there's nothing worse than having technical issues during these type of events. And you're just like, oh, come on. Can I catch a break?
No. The answer is no, you can't catch a break.
Yeah, I heard her say she tried her own personal laptop. I was like, oh, that's never good.
Yeah, no. Yeah, the number of times I've been on not stuff that we've done, hey Martin, but not stuff that we've done, but stuff where I'm presenting to someone else in another whatever, and like, oh, the video won't work. Okay, that's super fun.
Are you Martin, are some folks from your group maybe done now?
Yes, yeah, they're coming over.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we'll give it about 2 more minutes and I'll let everybody know that we're finishing up.
We finished up about a minute or 2 early, so we came back to join you, Caesar, because we knew it was
Yeah,
almost.
no worries. Yeah, that makes it easier when it's time to close out the breakout room. So all good.
All right.
Yeah, they missed you, Caesar.
We knew we left here all alone.
What's that?
We knew we left Caesar here all alone. We had to come back and check on him.
Yeah, well, that's why I hung out here, because I wanted to keep.
Yeah, no. Thomas and I had some good conversation in the background, so
Okay.
all good.
Very good.
So was the conversation good that you all had?
Yeah, it was good. Took some notes and can follow up on those. It's great.
Fun.
Discussed how great it is to have someone from the governor's office that's also trauma informed, and that's really nice.
Yeah.
It's been a process, y'all. Trust and believe. It's been a process.
They just gave that 60-second countdown, so we should be getting folks coming back.
Awesome.
Can you take me back to 2? I guess I'm going to be coming. I was talking and clicked the wrong button.
Oh man, we're actually everybody's coming.
They're
We're
going to be
down to
back in
seconds.
30 seconds.
Apologies.
Hey, CEO Almond.
Hey,
Man,
how you doing?
every day.
I keep
Where you
trying
at
to
this afternoon? Where you at tomorrow? I'm sure I'm gonna see you every day.
I know I keep trying to embrace technology, and then I'm like talking and really interrupted myself. That's always good.
It reminds everybody that we're all human, right?
Right on.
And technology is nothing to be messed with.
Yeah. Be very careful.
All right, Heidi, Dee, I think you guys are still in charge, so, or maybe Mike.
Yes, I just wanted to say that we had a great discussion in our breakout group. I hope you all did. We were fortunate to have Michelle from Pure Heart. They're one of the great examples, along with Reverend Barnwell, as how you do this, what you do, how you create those environments. And I've given me a challenge. I've got a challenge to go to my faith community with some information that I learned in there. And bottom line is this whole thing starts at the top with the modeling of the leader, the modeling of the pastor. Wanted to first of all thank the people involved here, Reverend you, Reverend Barnwell. Want to thank Thomas, Heidi, Tonya. Wanted to thank also. We have our whole team. We have Dee, who heads up the Be Connected Network. We have Amanda, who is just is on our team and just he's a jack of all trades. And then I want to thank Cesar, who was behind the scenes. Those who do Zoom stuff, you got to have somebody behind the scenes like Wizard of Oz, someone really knows what they're doing behind there to make us look good. A couple of things coming up. Arizona Faith Gatherings, those are the dates. 21st of February, August 14th, November 13th. And then, of course, the symposium will have 3 seminars, 3 breakouts related directly to faith and spirituality. So I want to recognize Director Dana Almond, Department of Veteran Services. Dana and her whole organization have been so supportive of our work. So Thomas, I don't know if you had any other comments?
No, that's great, Mike. I really appreciate everything, and turn it back to Heidi, I believe.
Well, thank you all for coming today. We sure appreciate Dr. Sangun Yu and Reverend Barnwell for being with us today and sharing your work and inspiring, really creating these communities of belonging in our own communities and faith networks. So I did notice that a lot of you were putting your takeaways in the chat, and I would love to hear more of those takeaways because they are always inspiring and exciting to hear what you learned. So you can absolutely email those to me as well. I have my own too, and I would encourage you just to write those down for yourself too, so you don't forget as you're going out into your own communities that we affect others so greatly. Thank you so much for attending this November Faith Gathering. Your presence and participation makes the event a success, and we truly appreciate your support. I hope that you found Dr. Yu's creating communities of belonging as impactful and important as we do. And we thank you for your attendance, and we look forward to seeing you in February.
And when will the video be available on our website?
I can send it out via email tomorrow, and we will have it available on the website by next week.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.